Coming up on TekThing, Nvidia RTX 2080 GPUs ship this week. We're going to talk performance. Nixplay's got a more affordable photo frame. SureCall's end-range cell signal booster boosts. Well, it's all coming up on TekThing. A big thanks to our patrons. Without your support via patreon.com/TekThing, we wouldn't be able to make the show for you each and every week. Join the crew that makes TekThing possible at patreon.com/TekThing. And seriously, join our patrons Jonathan F., Rohan B., Craig B., and James S. They make TekThing possible. You can too. Patreon.com/TekThing. Thanks.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
And this is TekThing, where we have something useful in every single show.
And today we're going to talk about something expensive.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, maybe not that expensive, right? Because we saw GPU prices peaked at like 272,000 times MSRP around Christmas. I exaggerate slightly. Okay, maybe I exaggerate a lot.
They were pretty expensive. I saw at most like $1,200, but I'm sure there were some out there on like eBay and stuff that were way more expensive.
I saw some $1,200 cars selling briefly for like $2,000.
Yeah.
But that was
$2,000. Whoa.
$2,000. Well, you know. Never let it be said that people didn't overspend in pursuit of cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
But today, let us talk about gaming.
Yay, gaming!
Specifically, the new 20 series RTX cards from Nvidia. As we're shooting this, look, kids, you can see a web page from Nvidia. As we're shooting this, just about every gaming hardware reviewer on the planet is furiously benchmarking, staring at screens, making charts, and writing. The NDA goes up Wednesday, the 19th. Cards start shipping on the 20th.
So exciting!
And in theory, there's pictures of the cards here. I don't know, maybe, yeah, there it is.
Oh, what?
So here's what we know.
It broke.
Little Nvidia AI guy. For today's games, i.e. no RTX real-time ray tracing awesomeness, the $800 Founders Edition RTX 2080 is roughly equivalent to a 1080 Ti. 1080 Ti's right now are selling for around $700 or $750, pretty close to their MSRP. Depending on the game, the 2080 might be a bit faster. That's what I'm hearing. For comparison, a 1080 Ti is about 30% faster than a 1080 on benchmarks on traditional games. They obviously aren't going to ray trace with all their cards.
Right.
1080s are selling for about $500 right now. If you want the mad performance on your 4K monitor,
which you might.
You might. I'm hearing that the $1,200 2080 Ti is 30 or 35% faster than a 1080 Ti.
Wow.
It is also, you know, like 40% more expensive, which sounds familiar to ratios between GPUs in the past. Now, the sad part, RTX games basically don't exist right now. Well, let's talk about this. Nvidia has sent out a lot of demos that show off ray tracing.
Yes.
They've showed off a lot of ray tracing. Tell me what you think of Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Beautiful. It looks so cool, and it should be first to ship an update that adds RTX when it actually releases. So far, I have gotten to play the beta, and you got to see some ray tracing in there with the 2080, and it was absolutely beautiful back in Germany. But of course, that was on all of the like top of the line specs that they had there for the demos for all the influencers.
And Nvidia put their best face forward.
So I haven't gotten to like plug one of these things into my own machine at home and be able to play with it yet, but it's beautiful.
The day we release this show, the 2080 should be shipping. Battlefield 5 should ship with real-time ray tracing in November. The launch date
and that one looks awesome.
Shipped.
The cool thing with Battlefield 5 too is the fact that like a lot of times with old games, well all the time with old games, you couldn't see a reflection of something unless that thing was on the screen too, like that physical thing. So their demo showed this huge fireball and you couldn't see it without the RTX on with the reflections in the window and reflections in the car. Normally you would not be able to see any of that unless you actually faced the fireball itself. So it was really, really beautiful how they were able to show like this is an actual reflection like what you would see in real life. And this is what it looks like in the video game. And then everybody in the audience goes, ooh.
Because it's like nothing you've ever seen before in a real-time video game. It's the kind of stuff that would require you to render for hours and days and weeks. Don't pull this up yet. I forgot to hit the Newegg only section. So here's the deal. MSRP, $599 for the RTX 2070, $799 for the RTX 2080, $1,200, $1199 for the RTX 2080 Ti. I've been told to expect cards to be difficult to find, and as of our shoot, the nice thing is the pricing on partner cards is pretty close to MSRP. Like I'm in here, I'm actually laughing because I keep clicking on GeForce RTX 2080. Let's hit apply. There it goes. So you can still do some pre-orders on this. So they're right in the neighborhood. They're like 40 or 50 bucks over over the MSRP. These are the 2080 Ti's. Nobody can really order these at this point. So the 2080 ships on Thursday. We have no ship date for the RTX 2070, and you can't even buy one right now. The best you can do is like go to Nvidia and have them give you a heads up when it's available. Like there's no notifies, there's no pre-orders. You can do like a pre-order notification for or at least a few hours ago, I could go onto this webpage and try to shop for, this.
Everything is broken.
Yeah, well,
they might just be going through a lot of changes on the website right now in preparation for them to actually ship.
I was just laughing because, like, literally, you could still at least attempt to pre-order. It was just weird. I don't know. Maybe I could be hallucinating, but I swear a couple hours ago. You could order on that page, at least like
I know you could order on that page about a week ago because I checked.
Okay.
So something has changed in between that time and now, which has broken the website.
Even AI can't find this page. That creature makes me so happy.
It'll probably be fine once this episode posts.
Oh my goodness. So 2080 is the first to launch. Performance of the $800-ish 2080 on today's games is around the same as the $700 GTX 1080 Ti. 80 series prices are still close to MSRP. 2070s, we have no release date and no ability to pre-order those. There's no RTX games at launch unless maybe Shadow of the Tomb Raider ships their update today. Or I should say today when you're watching this, not 2 days earlier when we're recording this. Or there's some surprise game release we don't know of yet. Stranger things will have happened. And best of all, 1070, 1070 Ti, 1080, and 1080 Ti prices are floating around MSRP. And by the way, don't expect them to drop. They're probably going to float around that point until there is a ton of 20 series GPUs in the channel.
Yep.
I think I'm finally going to commit and get a sub 215 millimeter GPU to fit in my little mini ITX case build.
Really?
I've been waiting for 7 months to put components into that case.
That's awesome.
I'm excited.
I am going to put all sorts of new components into my gigantic tower, which is very different.
Yes.
But it will be fun.
You can carry that on your back if you put straps on it. The one I'm building will actually fit in my backpack.
That's a big difference.
They both have to be plugged into a wall.
Yes.
But mine's more travel friendly. Unless you enjoy travel. I don't know. Have you ever traveled with a tower?
Once when I was going to LAN parties. It wasn't fun at all.
LAN parties, that's why, I still giggle every time I see a PC case, full-size PC case with a handle on the top.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous.
Shannon knows why it's there.
Yep, I do.
They need monitors with handles to go with them and things to protect the screens.
Let us know if you have any questions about NVIDIA's newest GPUs, the 2080s and 2080 Ti's, and also if you want to hear news on whenever the 2070s are available for everything from testing to pricing. We would love to share more information with you. So ask at TekThing.com or you can tweet us at TekThing. Are you ready for another digital photo frame review? Because I am all about that thing.
Well, you found the luxurious, maximum, super awesome, bestest photo frame ever.
I did. The Aura, which is $300. It's a little bit pricey.
What am I holding here?
This one is called the Nixplay Iris. So you can currently find this one online at a couple of different sites. You can find it at nixplay.com, and it's $199.99 over there. You can also find it over on Amazon.com too, and it's $157 on there. So it's slightly cheaper on Amazon. So if I were to buy one, I would definitely go to Amazon. But it's basically comes in silver, peach copper, and burnished bronze. It's the Nixplay Iris, the least expensive one out of the several that they have on their website. But they have multiple colors, and it's a lot cheaper than the Aura frame, which is why I was very interested in checking this out myself. So look, isn't it cute?
Is this I gotta ask, is this the peach copper or the bronze?
That's the burnished bronze.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a little bit darker. I prefer peach copper myself, but I like the burnished bronze as well. It looks really good.
The aesthetics are actually quite wonderful.
The aesthetics are very, very nice. Yeah, it's got a nice texture on the back, and I like that it's a matte finish on the front, so it's not super shiny and glossy or anything like that. So this frame, similar to the last one that I reviewed, requires no memory card or flash drive, and it updates via a Wi-Fi connection. So you simply share photos to family members' photo frames, or you can sync up to 5 frames on an account if you have 5 frames yourself, or if you have multiple different family members that have photo frames, so that you can share those pictures with all of them simultaneously if you wanted to.
The power cord is the stand.
I will get to that.
Okay.
It's a little weird.
Does it run on batteries?
No, it does not. Yeah, you have to have it plugged in.
Okay, that seems reasonable.
Yeah, you gotta have it plugged in. It updates no matter where you are in the world via a free iPhone or an Android app, and to add photos to it, all you have to do is just get into the application, send them to the specific frame through the application, or you can email them to your frame's Nixplay email address, because apparently there is an email address. However, I found it easiest to just download the app, upload them straight through the app, and then you're good to go. The frame does come with 8 gigs of internal memory storage for displaying photos when the frame is offline, so you can use this without Wi-Fi connection if you want to, along with 10 gigs of free online storage to display them through the cloud. So only 10 gigs, that's what you're stuck with.
Right.
As far as I can tell through the website and after talking to them, it doesn't seem like you can purchase more than that. So you have 10 gigs. That's what you get.
If you've never been there, this website, tinyjpeg.com,
TinyJPEG
is your friend. I've had this take
cool.
1.4 megabyte JPEGs from Photoshop.
That's useful.
And take them down to 278 kbps or kilobits.
You know, given that most of my photos are straight from Photoshop and they are, I usually export them at really, really high resolution JPEGs.
Right.
That would be extremely useful for me. So I like that. Thank you very much for that recommendation. So through your phone, you can upload photos from lots of different applications, including Instagram, Dropbox, Facebook. They just announced a Google Photos API too, with integrations so that you can create playlists, or you can sync with your Google Photos library, which is really cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah, it's very
useful. As long
useful.
as you don't sync everything and your mom sees something she's not supposed to see.
It's actually very, very useful. Photos are also displayed in a 1024 by 768 resolution in their 4:3 aspect ratio. It does intelligently add some kind of lovely blurred background to any photos that are a different aspect ratio, and you'll see some pop up here during my review. You can also edit this in the settings so that each photo is displayed kind of zoomed in to fill the display screen, as opposed to having a blurred background effect on it.
I gotta say, I would have thought the resolution was much higher.
Yeah, you'd think so, because it looks really good, right?
Yeah,
it looks very, very nice and clean and crisp, even though it's not full HD. Now, in the settings, you can also edit the brightness. I currently have it turned up to full brightness, and here's that blurred background that I was mentioning right there that you can see. You can also do things like turn on adaptive brightness, so that it turns on brighter whenever you're in a darker room, and it goes darker whenever you're in a bright room. But it's also on a sleep schedule if you want to set that up. You can change photo timing. Mine's currently on 10 seconds per picture. You can choose playlists, and you can edit playlists. You can add it to a different network if you want to. You can shuffle your photos. You can show a clock down in the bottom like I have here. You can edit the activity sensor, which is activated by sound. So whenever you enter a room, it'll turn on.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's pretty nifty.
I was like, why is there a mic on this?
So it'll like go to sleep, but then whenever you walk in and it hears you, it'll turn on automatically. So
or if the cat's vomiting up a hairball.
Or if the cat's vomiting up a hairball in the corner, that's totally possible.
I can see my odor now.
Such a true issue too. My cat did that in the middle of the night the other night. But tangent aside, photos are not super saturated. I noticed that they look pretty realistic. However, you can change the RGB balance if you want to, but I don't mess with that because I kind of like the natural look.
Well, it seems like muted compared to the Aura.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
it is a little bit muted. Yeah, and that's fine. Like, I don't mind that at all. And usually I edit my photos to be more HDR and more poppy anyway. So having them kind of pulled back a bit looks pretty normal to me, so I'm okay with this. I did notice that it's not insanely bright, but it gets the job done even at full brightness. Like, this is currently full brightness. I would prefer a higher resolution screen, at least full HD, like 1920 by 1080, but their step-up frame is $209 on Amazon, and that one does serve up full HD resolution. So still cheaper than the Aura.
$39 to get 1080p.
Yeah, exactly.
It's manageable.
Yeah, it's if it's in your budget, then cool, you could totally upgrade and get a higher resolution screen.
This is Shannon's favorite part.
The frame, yes. So this is the cool part. So you can sit at either vertical or horizontal positions. Watch what happens. Is it that cool? It intelligently switches the photo to be upright no matter which way you switch it. It's so cool. I can't get over how quickly and how easily it does that, because some digital photo frames are not that intelligent.
Or don't do it at all.
Or they just don't do it at all. You know who I'm looking at out there. Now, you can't hang it, though. That is an unfortunate part. It must rest on a solid surface. And it comes with this very weird and somewhat strange cable stand. It's very structured, so it holds wherever you keep it. But this is how you stand it up. And when you stick it down on a hard surface, and I'll get some B-roll so you can see this, you have to make sure that you kind of finagle it the right way so that it balances, or else it'll just fall over. And it seems pretty stiff, so it seems like it'll stay there pretty well. But
I feel like I'd put it in a picture frame holder.
Yeah.
Just, you know.
It might fall over, though, if you don't put the cable in the correct direction. So, like, it's fine right now, but, you know, if your cat knocks it over or something, then it's going to get knocked over.
And if you're thinking like me, oh, I can just duct tape it to the wall. Remember,
no, it sticks out pretty far.
Cable.
Yeah, and it's a pretty thick cable as well, and it's very structured. So it comes with that cable stand. You can't unplug the cable stand because part of it is popping out all the time. However, this is how you power. However, this is how you power it on in the back. Right here, it plugs in right there. Now it comes with a remote too, so you don't need your phone and the application anytime you want to update the settings or change to a different playlist, for example. In my experience, updates happened really quickly over Wi-Fi, and the application itself is very intuitive. It's really easy to use, not too much explanatory to go into that. As with any IoT device though, it is crucial that the device stays up to date with any security issues, and this one did receive an update when I first plugged it in, so that was good. Yay, firmware updates. I like seeing updates. Now, at half the price of the Aura photo frame, which I have also reviewed, this is a really good bargain, and it's an awesome choice to gift to a family member, even though the screen is a lower resolution than the Aura. And they do have that other option available on Amazon too that I noticed, and on their website over at the nixplay.com website. Especially if your family is spread out across the globe like mine is, it's really nice to be able to send mom pictures, like whenever my sister takes new photos of my niece or something like that.
Mom's not looking at this and going like, I really wanted a higher resolution photo.
No, mom's gonna look at this and be like, this is gorgeous and it looks wonderful sitting on, you know, my fireplace stand or whatever. So I think that it is a good looking frame at a competitive price point, and this is the price point that I was looking for and that I argued about when I reviewed the last one.
We still need to get you to get one of the like $75 staggeringly cheap, also available on all. I'm
scared though. I'm scared. I don't really want to review one that's that cheap because I feel like I might burn it.
It rooted my house.
It was terrible. It rooted my house. Exactly.
Or maybe it just looked, you know.
That one's going on the test network for sure.
480p. What? Just kidding.
If you have a photo frame that you think is a better deal or one that you want me to check out on the show, definitely let me know. I really like this one. It's the Nixplay Iris again. I thought it was an awesome deal, and it looks very, very excellent. So it's a good quality one, great price point. Ask at TekThing.com if you have any questions, or you can tweet me as well. I'm at Snubs or at TekThing. I'll answer that one too.
You heard the lady. We love your questions, your tips, your suggestions of products and ideas to check out, or if you found something you think is even better, you can tweet at TekThing, at Snubs, or at Patrick Norton, or just email ask@tekthing.com. And a big shout out to our patrons, patreon.com/TekThing. You pay the bills. You make this show possible. Our thanks to you. Join the crew that makes TekThing happen at patreon.com/TekThing. I've spent a fair amount of time in the middle of nowhere. I mean, full on.
Yes, you have.
Oh, it's 65 miles to a paved road like middle of nowhere where cell coverage is thin. And I've wondered, when will I be able to call home, and will I still be married by the time I make that phone call? So cell phone signal boosters, they basically give your cell phone access to more better antenna and signal amplification they can build into a phone. Became a staple in my adventure vehicles like 10, 15 years ago. Now, it turns out a cell booster, at least in my experience, can be just as useful in urban areas. Now, let's talk about this, SureCall's new Model N cell booster. So if you take a look at this page here on SureCall's website, this is like this Fusion to Go. These are like typical. You've got an antenna, then there's an amplification module that goes inside of your vehicle.
That thing is.
And yeah, then if there's either an antenna or a cradle, like this antenna probably works for the entire car. And then the one that actually comes with the end range is designed to have your phone pressed up to it. And this is pretty interesting. They call it their extended range technology. And essentially what they've did is they've taken the antenna and they've built all of the amplification into the antenna. This magnetically mounts on top of your car. They got a 3M sticky if your car is made out of materials that are not magnetic, like, for example, like Ford trucks or aluminum or Teslas or whatever. And it's really slick because what they do is they, as I pull the magnets apart, they capture and boost the signal from the cell tower before there's any loss over the 10, 15, 20-foot cable that routes around the inside of your car and comes up to the front of the dashboard.
Cool.
SureCall assures me that Model M will work with pretty much every carrier in the US, Mexico, and Canada, i.e. all of North America. The power situation is really simple. You can power it off of a 12-volt lighter socket, or you can wire it into a 12-volt source on your car. And then there's the other end of the Model N. Now this is designed, well, it's got magnets to hold your phone in place. They put a little piece of metal in the box you can put on the back of your phone to stick to it. And then it's got one of, it's designed to shove into the vents. I am not really a block the vents on my car kind of guy because it gets hot here in Northern California and I sweat. So I chose the alternative wedge it into the cup holder mounting technique. I also experimented with using the little rubber strap to hold it onto the mount technique. And if I keep this, if I pay and keep this, I will probably figure out a way to mount this into my standard sort of like attaching it to the dashboard mount. Conveniently, there's some really weak cell phone coverage in my town, like negative 103 or 115 or worse is pretty easy to find.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it's
that's surprising for the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah, well, San Francisco's tough, right? Because it's like there's basically hills full of rock, right? And where I am there's sort of the estuary and a bay and a little Coast Guard base, and then what basically amounts to a very poor section of Oakland, which is not particularly well covered. And then there's just a lot of, if you drive to the right corner, the cell signal basically flatlines.
Wow.
I use Network Cell Info. It's an app on Android to get the signal strength data because it's so much easier than digging into all of the settings. And let me say this, I was really surprised I had no trouble maintaining a conversation. Again, I'm on AT&T. I'm in an area where the strength is like 109 to 117, like negative 109 to 117. Turning on the end range in one particular case took it from like negative 109 to 81 dB, or maybe probably more like negative 100 to 81 dB. It's a huge bump.
Yeah.
Now, there's reasons why this could have happened. But what was funny for me is the caller on the other end didn't find any change in the audio quality between like negative 100 and negative 81. But this was a 4G connection. And SureCall is basically like, hey, if you're on 4G, you should be able to go as low as negative 120 dB before dropping a call.
Wow.
Who knew? They also said if your phone switched to 3G, the point you drop a call at might change.
Good to know.
I'm going to read that as if I go up to my favorite part of, Oregon.
Oregon, yeah.
It's a big state just north of us. Spent a lot of time there. Like if I drove up to Lakeview in Oregon, which is like the nearest place I can think of off the top of my head where there's 3G only to test this, that would have been like 7 hours driving. And I apologize. I did not do that for you. I did, however, spend a bunch of time testing my phone's internet speed, the hotspot speed, and the difference the end range made in data speed was kind of epic.
Really?
In one location, it jumped the speed from 13 megabits per second down and 2 megabits per second up to 26 megabits per second down and 23 megabits per second up.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Wow.
Think about that for a second. In another location, 2.86 megabits per second down and like 6.68 megabits per second up. That became 11.8 down and 7.1 seconds up.
That's awesome.
I wish I had the SureCall Model N. I wish I had this to magnetically stick to the top of my car a few weeks ago because I was Skyping into a podcast from a Vista stop off I-5. I could see the tower, literally. Like I was up high enough that I could see the tower on the next hill, but the connection was what I will affectionately call weak.
Yeah.
Got the podcast there, but it would have been a little bit simpler. And it would have had a little less blurring of my co-host.
That's really impressive.
I was really impressed.
Yeah.
I would also like to now drive the 7 hours to a place I know where there's no 4G to see what the 3G
just to see if it works.
Yeah, just to see. Side note, it is amazing if you're in an urban area what driving 100 yards can do to your signal. If you have a part of your house where if like I walk 10 feet over there, I can talk to mom, but if I walk over towards the stove, the phone cuts out. You know what I'm talking about? Like, driving 100 yards away from a particular building took me from like 3 megs down and like 0.14 megabits per second up to like 3 megs down and 6 megabits per second up.
That's impressive.
It's kind of crazy when you start looking at how rough cell reception can be. SureCall also, they wanted to make it really clear how many people are on the network can dramatically impact performance. Quote, the more people that are attached to the tower, the smaller the coverage area gets. The less people that are attached to the tower, the bigger it is and the easier it is to get a call to go through. And they said like the worst case example, the worst case scenario is like CES or a baseball game or a football stadium where you have 11,000 people all trying to text like, oh my God, did you see that down?
Makes it even worse whenever you're in a technological environment like one of those where everybody's trying to share the experience.
Or it's a really boring baseball game and everybody's trying to, bejeweled or something. So, you can be really close to a tower but not able to get a call to go through because everything is so saturated, that would also explain that sort of like as people drove, one of the main drags is right by where I was doing some of the testing, and I would watch the signal go from like, negative 109 to negative 95 to negative 100 to negative 1. And now I know that's probably because people were driving through and their cell phone was going from like that tower to this tower to the next tower.
That's really cool.
So, move someplace where there's nobody, but near a tower.
There you go.
And you'll be fine. Anyhow, SureCall N-Range, $200, and should be available on Amazon and SureCall's partners by the time you see this.
Oh, sweet. It's brand new.
Yeah. So just came out this week. I was impressed. Go forth and get yourself some better signal.
Yay.
Oh, one last thought.
Okay.
Something that almost every cell booster company is going to tell you up front. If there is no signal, we can't help you.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Well, yeah, but it's
if you don't have signal to begin with, they have no signal to boost.
Bingo. For example.
Duh.
Well, yeah, I mean, it sounds like
Although
duh,
I guess that would be a complaint that they've probably received.
They have, because people will do things like, so this Google map I'm showing you, this is Reno, this is Gerlach, and I want to say there's an antenna over here, and there's one like over here, and then this area, there's a lot of nothing.
Yeah.
So if there's a lot of nothing and the nearest cell phone antenna is like 100 miles away, this is not going to fix your problem. However, as you drive towards civilization, you will probably get your connectivity that much faster. And should your beloved spouse perhaps being on the edge of calling a divorce lawyer because they haven't heard from you in 72 hours because you've been stuck in the desert, you'll be that much safer. I'm just saying.
Good to know.
Anyhow, SureCall.com is the website. It's also up on Amazon.com. That's the N-Range. And I want to give them a shout out. Thanks for the test product to review. I was impressed.
We got a question from PJ who wrote into ask@TekThing.com. He says, hey both, please help. I am looking for a good antivirus solution for my MacBook Pro. With all the different vulnerabilities going around lately, I figured it was time to up my game a bit on my personal machine. I'm well versed in AV software for Windows, being a sysadmin by trade, but wondered if any of you had any recommendations for Mac systems. I've heard good things about the Mac version of Bitdefender, but unfortunately it's $30 a year and didn't want to commit unless it was any good. Thanks in advance for your thoughts, a fellow Patrick.
A fellow Patrick. He is also named Patrick.
That's
I think
cute.
It was actually 30 pounds.
Oh.
Which is even more expensive than $30.
That's really expensive.
Depending on where the pound or the euro is.
Yeah.
Okay, first thought is the biggest vector for exploitation on any computer is probably still you. I mean, I think it was like The Atlantic did an article talking about like phishing. You should know about,
Phishing is still a huge issue.
So that would be my first thought. My second thought is Windows are the vast majority of the targets for this stuff, along with the Internet of Things, because there are so many of them out there. As far as Mac goes, Sophos and Avast come to mind. And oddly enough, I am cheered to find out that they are still like Macworld editor and choice picks for antivirus for Mac. So it's good to know that the ones I were using years ago are still pretty hot. Sophos kind of pioneered AV on the Mac, or at least I feel like I saw them early and often. And if you're deep into security and you run OS X, let us know which AV you run, if you run, why you run it, and seriously, no, just load Kali Linux on Windows. We understand Kali Linux would be more secure, but then you're running Kali Linux and not OS X. That could be problematic.
I don't run any AV right now.
Well, you've got
except
Windows
for the
Defender.
built-in Windows Defender. Yeah.
Most people I know who work in security and oddly enough are on Windows.
Yeah, Windows Defender, that's what we do.
And never open email.
Because we like to gamble with our security.
I don't know if it's gambling. It's just it's good enough for most people.
It is, yeah. It's good enough. It's trustworthy so far.
If I was setting up a Windows machine for a certain relative of mine, I'd probably be running like Bitdefender.
Yes.
And lots of other things.
Yes. If I thought that they would be somebody who would click on links in emails or get phished all the time or put in their credit card details to a website that they shouldn't.
If I had a teenager I expected to be browsing places I did not necessarily want he or she to be.
Then you might want to invest in some better antivirus. Yeah, exactly.
Which also brings us back to the teenager should use the computer with the internet in a large public space like the kitchen.
Yes.
Because they're less likely to go to nefarious places if they think dad might look over their shoulder going,
That's why my dad had me using the home machine before I could have a PC in my room.
Yeah.
Makes sense now.
You know, well, you just want to sort of educate the children why we don't download those apps, or we don't go to those websites, or no, your computer is not infested with the Microsoft virus, and Microsoft is contacting you through this pulsating ad with the siren for you to dial 1-800, give them your credit card number, and lose everything. Just saying.
Well, speaking of security, we should probably thank Hack5.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to give a big thank you to Hack5 for the studio space we are shooting the show in. If you haven't been there, please check out the Security and Privacy Podcast at hack5.org. And then especially if you're a sysadmin, check out the superior pen testing and USB automation tools over at hack5.org/gear. Because let me tell you something. You haven't lived until you've made a USB rubber ducky do tricks.
I just want to point out my terrible inside joke with the recent episode of ThreatWire. Go back to that image for me, Patrick, and tell me, why did I put a RAM on the thumbnail for ThreatWire?
I don't know.
Because a cold boot attack attacks RAM.
I remember once in a while, down the phone, step away from the screen, stop punning, close the laptop, and stop punning, and do something analog.
It's not every day I get to be punny, okay? And I'm really bad with puns usually, but I was very proud of my cold boot attack in the RAM.
Shout out to Tom Merritt and the Daily Tech News Show, who I still take in vain. His name I do. Every time my son accidentally makes a pun, I call up Tom and say, "This is your fault." And he goes, "What are you talking about?"
That's so funny.
Analog?
Analog pick. My analog pick this week is swimming with dolphins. Woo! This was so cool and it was amazing. It was a wonderful experience. Shaky cam happens whenever you are swimming in water and trying to move a GoPro around. That's just going to be a part of life. But this was footage that me and my brother got when we were swimming with dolphins. It was incredible. Best day ever and best moment ever. And you can do this yourself if you are interested. If you go down to Oahu, you can find dolphins on the west coast. They frequent that area, and you can swim out there with a dive flag, and you can swim with them. Just
hanging.
Yeah, just hang out with them. That was me.
Yeah, with the dolphins.
Just hang out with the dolphins. It was an amazing experience, and I highly recommend it as an analog pick. Yes, I could. And I caught some of that on my GoPro, too. You could hear them just like chirping. Yeah. Don't do that in front of a corgi, they will attack. Don't ask me how I know.
She still bears the scars, people. So I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Shannon Morse.
We'll see you next week on TekThing.
Yeah, one time I had a corgi friend. My friend had a corgi dog, and it was my corgi friend. Right. But I made dolphin noises because I used to be able to do that until my voice got lower. Because I don't know, I hit puberty, I guess, when I was 30. Yeah, I turned into an alto. I'm not a soprano anymore. It's so sad. But I went, and then the corgi attacked me. He jumped into the air like he was flying, and he went flip, 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 and he tried to chomp my cheek. And I was just like, why don't you like dolphins? What's wrong with you, corgi?
Mother killed my... No. A dolphin killed my mother.
It was a very strange moment in my life, and I was just like, I'll never make the dolphin noise again.
Now I wonder if that was like one of the queen's cat corgis. You ever see the carpet of corgis she travels with? It's like my favorite part of any movie about Queen Elizabeth.
It's so cute.
Just a little like moving carpet of corgis. There they are, protecting the queen from dolphins.
Yes, they are.
It's a big problem.
Thank you, everybody, for watching the show. We love you so much.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your tips. And thank you to our patrons.
Yes.